Hi, I'm Tram Anh Nguyen. I'm the co-founder of CFTE, and I welcome you to the Upskilling series. We all see the world going digital, rapidly transforming our lives, our jobs, and the way we live all together. In fact, the pandemic has only been a catalyst to this transformation, and it's up to us to adapt to this technology-driven world. So how do you adapt to these changes? How do you find talent for the roles that don't exist yet? Well, the Upskilling series aims to find its answers to all these questions by interviewing global experts, CEOs of fintech startups, and thought leaders to shed some lights on the jobs of tomorrow in financial services and fintech. Let's start with our next guest. I'm extremely pleased to welcome Iana Dimitrova, CEO of OpenPayd. I'm very happy to have Iana with us today. And from what I understand, OpenPayd is a technology business that provides a range of banking and payment services. These are underpinned by a global network of licenses and are accessible through a single APIs. But I'm sure Iana will share with us much, much more. Iana, it's a real pleasure to have you part of this series with us today.
Tram, very good afternoon to you, and thank you for having me, and thank you for having OpenPayd. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, it's a pleasure, Iana. It's a pleasure. So before we start, Iana, I have a question about you. Could you tell us how did you start your career? And could you, of course, talk us more about OpenPayd?
Yeah, sure. Very happy to. Let me maybe just say a few words about OpenPayd first. So OpenPayd is a global digital banking as a service provider. So what we do is we help businesses with their payments and banking need. We are essentially the API banking provider of the future, the one that provides services for the digital economy. And going back to your introduction, I think, as you quite rightly pointed out, the pandemic has only accelerated the need for these services, and we see this firsthand coming from the demand of our existing customers and more customers asking for digital banking as they develop themselves their digital delivery channels to their own customers and consumers. In terms of myself, where should I start? Let me maybe first of all start by saying that I'm not a chief executive by design. I'm more of a chief executive by accident. What I mean by that is I'm a lawyer by background, so I studied, I trained, and I worked as a lawyer for several years. I started my career first in private practice as a lawyer, and then I moved in-house. Now, I've been in payments for more than 10 years now, but the majority of that time was very much as a lawyer, working and helping businesses with all sorts of legal, regulatory, and compliance questions. To be perfectly transparent with you, I also joined OpenPayd now 4 years ago as a lawyer. I started at the time the business was very different. It was much smaller. Actually, the brand did not even exist at the time, and it was very much run by its founder, as we are still very young and I guess dynamic and a founder-owned business. So the idea of the founder at the time was to bring a lawyer on board that is coming from the payments industry, just to get that knowledge and experience, really. So I can say that for the first year, that was a big portion of my role, and that's how the journey started. But I guess because of where the company was in terms of stage of development, I soon found myself doing a lot more than the legal and the regulatory work. I was working hand in hand with our founder, hand in hand with our chief financial officer, with our head of HR at the time, on all sorts of different issues. So I guess at some point there was, I'd almost say, an organic transition from just being the lawyer to looking after the different, at the time, business and product verticals that we had. And there was no big formal announcement, you know. It happened rather organically, and I think that was, on the one hand, a difficult experience for me, because people were asking the question as to sometimes, why am I getting involved in discussions if I were just the lawyer. On the other hand, I think it gave me also the room to, you know, upskill myself, because today we're talking about upskilling, and find my feet in that new role. So that's about me in a nutshell.
Thanks a lot, Iana, for sharing your inspiring story. I didn't know. And I think it will resonate a lot to our audience to know how, you know, how you have made it from being a lawyer to today the CEO of OpenPayd. And you said by accident, but I think, you know, it was well chosen. So well done. And you say, so my next question would be, how do you personally acquire new skill and upskill yourself?
I think that's a great question. And frankly, had you asked me that question 4 or 5 years ago, when I was still very much acting as a lawyer, I would have given you a very long list of professional trainings and seminars and sessions. Right now, I think the biggest challenge is time. So I am probably guilty of not upskilling myself enough. And I'm sure many other people with very demanding operational daily jobs would feel the same way. So for me personally, the best way that I find to upskill myself is actually being out and talking to clients. Because when I go and talk to our current customers and potential new customers, I get to hear about what their problems are, and then helps me steer the business in the right direction. Unfortunately, right now, I don't have much time left for anything else, which is, of course, a problem in the long run. But I try to upskill myself through our customers, through the problem of our customers, through following, I guess, the industry trends and news. And also another big portion that I admit I would like to dedicate more time to that than I currently do is around leadership, and how to be a better leader to, in a way, earn and retain the trust of our people, of our shareholders, of our regulators, and of our customers.
Mm-hmm. And could you tell me, because at OpenPayd, you know, you when we had a conversation early on, you care a lot about growing your people and your team at OpenPayd. Could you tell some successful initiative you got to do to get the team to upskill?
Absolutely happy to do, because this is an area that our people and talent team and we as a management team are investing a lot in. So we're right now building that learning and development culture. And there are a number of things that we are currently doing, some more successful than others. I think the first thing is we are allocating budget per every single employee that they can utilize as they deem fit in a year, and that is quite a substantial amount. What we also found out, and I'm experiencing this firsthand, that it's not always about just the money, it is about finding the time. So effectively what we are doing is we're giving more time on top of the annual paid leave as paid leave to enable people to take the time and go and upskill themselves. Something that we have found very successful is our internal OpenPayd Academy, and the cross-sharing of experience and knowledge in between the functions. And that is in different formats. We're trying to go for more social interactive formats, whether that is the morning coffees or lunch and learns that are focusing on, you know, how to best use Salesforce, or what is the latest under the regulations, or whatever that may be. We found that works really, really well. The other thing is we are making sure that the personal learning and development is part of the annual goals. At least one has to be linked to personal development, and it's being monitored regularly through the performance reviews. I know that probably sounds very basic to established organizations. Yet I can tell you that when you build the team from the ground in a startup environment, that does make a difference. It's new to people, and it really does make a difference. So I think it's a combination of all of these things, and last but not least, investment in the development of the executives and the executive team as a whole, which I find is absolutely critical. In terms of what has worked well and not so well, I think we tried a few things. Maybe shadowing is one of them, which we found difficult, which leads me to my next point, that what has worked really, really well is, again, giving time people to go and select what they want to do, and also doing the exchange of knowledge in a social environment through lunch and learn or some sort of gathering of the sort.
No, thanks a lot. And any advice to fellow leaders on upskilling, how to transform your people in a startup?
That is a great, that I think that's a great question. I'd say there is no rule book. Try and fail fast and then try something else. I think it does really depend on the stage of the organization. It really does matter whether you're a small team of 25, 50, 100 or 500. And I think at every different stage, different tools would work. Again, I think the common theme has to be around giving people the time and space to feel that they have the headspace to actually carve time and develop themselves. And that's difficult in any organization. So find the right format to carve out that headspace that works for your organization.
No, thanks, Iana. So you talked about, the different initiatives, the ideas that you are implementing within your organization. And I would like to now talk about the challenges. And when I say about the challenges is that I'm talking with a lot of, other leaders, senior leaders, people that run, startup. And I think that what they often say, it's usually when you hire people and the younger generation, they stay 1, 2, years. And then after that, they start moving. How do you attract and retain the right talent in order to transform your organization towards a new culture, ways of working? Is it hard? Is it something you've done? What do you think?
It's incredibly hard. This is the hardest part of the job of any leader. And I discovered that myself, to my surprise, the hard way. I think people are really the key to success. And I hate to use that phrase because people often throw it out without really ascribing much meaning to it. We're used to hearing it, but it's only when you experience it yourself that you really realize how dependent you are on your team, the immediate team and the wider team. We have been through that journey. We as a company went through a major transformation. We, when I started, were in 3 different micro teams, each ascribed to a slightly different product line under its own brand and sense of belonging. So transforming that into a single homogeneous, coherent organization was incredibly difficult. And retaining people on such a journey is incredibly difficult. So I think when I look back and when I look at where we are, I'll be very transparent with you. I don't think I have the right answer. I don't have all of the answers. What I have discovered through experience to be important is make sure that people understand the direction of travel. Whether you call that a corporate mission, whether you call that a vision, whether you call that the exit, whether you call that the goals and the objectives of what we're doing, it's your choice. Different people have different preference, but make sure that people have a common purpose, let's put it this way, and understand how their role fits into advancing that common purpose. And from there, I think it is all about the right attitude. What that means is sometimes having to make the difficult decisions. So when you spot the wrong attitude as a leader, be very proactive and act quickly. Because the wrong attitude sometimes of one poisons the waters for hundreds. So that's the first thing. And I would say always privilege the right attitude and willingness to be part of a team and to contribute over experience, over the stars. I'm a firm believer in the teamwork versus individual stars that cannot work with one another. So to sum it up, I think that the common shared purpose and sense of belonging and the right attitude will get you really very far.
Very, very good advice. Thanks, Iana. And at OpenPayd, you are hiring. What are the type of people you are looking for? And I would say, what are the qualities for anyone who would like to be working for OpenPayd today?
I risk to repeat myself probably. Yes, we are. I think we're very fortunate to be growing. The demand for API banking is growing. The demand for our services is growing. And we are at that phase where we have to really scale what we have already built. The one thing I say to my immediate team, because ultimately I trust my immediate team to bring the right people and the right talent, is we're not filling jobs for the sake of it. So we always have to focus on the quality over the quantity. And sometimes when you have a very long hiring list, that's not obvious. People tend to get sidetracked and feel it's probably better to just have a pair of hands than the best pair of hands. So I think that's the first one. The second one is really attitude, because I believe that we can share experience and we can share skill and people can upskill themselves. But changing one's culture and ways of working and behaviors and attitude is much more difficult. So the one thing I personally always look for is the right attitude. Is this a team player? Is this a person that would support me, that would support the team with integrity, that is willing to make their mark, to do the right thing? If they are, any skill that they don't have, we will make sure that they acquire through working with people that have it, through investing in them, or otherwise. But this is the approach that I personally take.
Iana, what are the top jobs you are seeing being created today and most in demand compared to 5 years ago?
I'm probably not the best person to answer your question, because you can tell I'm not really the seasoned gray hair executive. And I'll probably give you an answer that you don't necessarily want, but I'm giving you this answer because this is the stage of our business and where we are at. The one thing I'll say is the fundamentals that are required for any business to be successful are still there. In other words, we can all talk a lot about, for example, I guess, artificial intelligence and how that is embedded in profiling consumers. And I see a lot in terms of jobs around data analytics and AI and how that is shaping and transforming the product and the customer experience. But I just want to stress that for any growing business, having the fundamentals, having that ownership in terms of operating the business is still very much there. So, I'm hoping that when your audience listens to you and I, they don't think, the world has completely moved on, and it's all in the cloud and my skill set is no longer relevant. That is absolutely not the case. The fundamentals for any business have to be there so that those new jobs and areas, and that innovation can happen. And I think it's about the challenge for any leader is marrying the two. So making sure that the core is being taken care of whilst innovating in the same time.
No, thanks a lot, Iana. It was very, very insightful. It was very, very insightful. And my last question is that, is there anything you want to share to our audience about OpenPayd, about you, how people connect with you?
Probably the best way would be to connect would be email, frankly. My email is my first name dot my last name @openpayd.com. I'm absolutely terrible at LinkedIn, despite, you know, the strong advice of my team, but always available on email.
No, thanks a lot, Iana, for your time today. It was a pleasure exchanging with you. Please connect with Iana through by email and follow OpenPayd. And if I know that OpenPayd are looking for talent, so we'll share the link for those of you who are looking into getting into OpenPayd. Thanks, Iana, for joining me, and I really love, you know, our discussion, and I hope that to see you in person in London very soon. Thanks.
Me too, and thank you for having me, and thank you for having OpenPayd.
Thank you for watching. I hope you've learned a lot. I'm already looking forward to the next interview. In the meantime, if you wish to learn more about the new world of finance, I invite you to check our previous videos where we welcome many guest experts to share their views. You can check out CFT's blog and articles to learn more and start your fintech journey. If you'd like to go further, you can acquire the basics in fintech, AI or open banking under 40 minutes with our free masterclasses from our experts. You can find all this information in the description below. Again, thank you for being with us today, and see you for the next interview.